Okay, so thanks everyone for coming along to this tonight. I've really stressed myself out by doing it because I'm just a terrible person at organizing. But frankly, I think we all need a bit more poetry in our lives, especially right now. So with all that said, let's get started.
Yay.
First up, T, if you'd care to grace us with your poetry.
Sounds good. Oh, she'll wait for Rhoda to get on.
Oh, it's Rhoda arrived?
It says she's connecting.
Oh, there we are. Perfect. There's Rhoda. Great. Welcome. And we're going to start off with T.
Coolio. I've got two to read if that's okay.
Absolutely fine.
Awesome. So for this first one, I'm going to give a content warning for mention of children, mention of elderly people. That's all.
What are you doing?
Muting the wrong channel.
One sec. Bottom one.
Okay, I'm back.
Hey, Chris, stop touching things.
Okay. So this is called Hands, and I wrote it about a month ago. For just context, I work with kids with learning disabilities at the moment. Children famously ask awkward questions, especially when I never know where to draw the line between my policy of gentle honesty and what their parents want them to hear. I've only known her for a day and a half when the little girl puts her hand happily in mine and asks me what I think the point of life is. Unlike with her other forays into an 8-year-old's philosophy, I don't hesitate before my answer. It is to be kind. I can't blame her for her quiet dissatisfaction. It's a boring answer, but in this case at least it is truth. I'd say I wish someone had told me when I was her age, but in the same lines of truth, I don't think I would have believed them. I went to science for my answers, decided that if I could determine where the first cell transferred ions with its neighbor, I would understand why I'd wanted to die since I was 8 years old. She leaves my hand for a moment, running to a tree to pluck the seeds from its branches, and I pull my coat tighter instinctively. We are teaching her to feel the ground beneath her feet, the wind on her face, to savor the cold of each indrawn breath. I know all too well how easy it is to become lost when the injustices of childhood shake through her tiny body, and I do wish someone had taught me this before. I once wept for all the pillows I had punched, though I never cried for the bruises I left on my own skin. I have learnt to let anger pass through me, to take injustice from the air and metabolize it, break it down in my lungs until all the exhale offers is calm. I want my walls to say they were kind to us, my floors to feel no stamp but the warming of cold feet. There is a time to fight, and there is a time to grow. Love, that overused poem, does both, and I have fought enough times, been my own tiger's claws when cornered, that I know that the greatest act of love can be taking up a sword. But I have also lost so much of myself to the bonfire of fury that I will always choose gentleness where possible, forgiveness when that is a braver act than violence. I want even my decay to be the fertilizer for flowers to grow beneath my feet. She comes running back, takes up my hand again, and I am humbled by the easy trust of it. I am 8 years ago or so, on a school visit to an old people's home. We drift bored teens between the senile elderly, muffled giggles and awkward mumbles when a woman's fingers twine in mine from nowhere. I still remember the texture of her hands, delicate, soft, wrinkled skin over bones, guiding me to kneel like a knight. Time stops as I smile, and with the wonder of a newborn child, she smiles back. She touches the pin on my blazer, an owl, coos and pats, fascinated. Our time is too short. In moments I am called away, and her face falls as this brief connection wavers. Unpinning the owl and folding it into her hand is the first time I have felt absolutely at peace in this world. I think now I knew God for the first time in her joy just then. This hand, equally fragile at the opposite pole of life, brings me back, letting go to point out a robin on the near fence with glee. I truly believe that we were put on this earth to make others' lives better. When I am gone, I do not hope that people will say I was kind, but rather that I was simply kind without want of reward. I never want my careless fault to be someone's last straw. Intentional kindness can be all the difference. One time I stood in the rain for 6 hours with a woman I had never met before because she had asked me, sobbing, for help. They kept asking on the phone with charity after charity. They kept asking who I worked for, unable to believe that someone would be so generous for free. I don't know her, I kept repeating. She just needed help. Time and time again, she begged me not to leave, and I won't pretend it didn't occur to me, but I stayed. When finally she was safe, she clutched my hands for 20 minutes, repeating again, "You saved my life. Thank you, I can't believe you stayed." We'd been pushed from doorway to doorway, denied and turned away all day, and every time all I thought was, good God, what is the point of life if not to be kind to one another? All my friends asked me why I did not walk away, and all I could say was, she just needed help. I cannot fathom a philosophy that is not rooted in simply being kind to one another. Fuck, what is the purpose do you have if not making the world better for your being there? I want the mark I leave on this world to be a wildflower meadow, fertilized by every worm I picked off the pavement and moved into mud with my bare hands. What even are we doing with every step we take, if not making the path easier for the next person to walk it? As the path winds back toward home, her steps slow, the offer of a hand turned down as she climbs to balance along a low wall. She's of an age where independence is the greatest gift, yet I hope she learns before I did how to say, I need help. There is a lot I hope she learns, of course. But above all else, this, that the greatest gift of all is simply to be kind. Look after yourself when you must, but offer your whole heart to the world every single time you can. On the bus home, an insect from the bush we brushed against rounds my sleeve. I cup my hands like a cradle for the whole half-hour ride. Release it onto grass first chance I get. Sorry. It will never know the kindness, but regardless, a kindness was done. I think of the woman in the rain, of the hundreds of people who walked past without pausing, of the pin badge, of bruises, of hands. I look around at the people looking for answers in their phones, and I pray that they know. It is to be kind.
That was wonderful, thank you.
That was hands. I've got a second one, if that's okay?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Shorter. Cool. I'm just going to take another drink. This one is called #maggots. Warning for Lucy looks so excited. It's about how much breakups suck, so it's lighter than that one. And I would probably give a content warning for alcohol and breakups, obviously, and like body horror, insects and stuff. Just a warning, I know that squicks some people out. Okay. Social media is an overpriced mortician putting makeup on the dead, or so they tell me. It certainly felt that way building a relationship out of the contour you showed to the world while pretending I didn't exist 7 days out of every 8. Relationship in this sense just meaning, of course, that you told me my chest was the chest your heart beat inside, and we had really great sex a couple half dozen times. And just in this sense meaning, of course, don't worry, I never wanted to call myself your girlfriend, in the same breath as your promise that it did not have to be a lesser thing just because. But I think, as always, I was defined by the just. If I saw you today, I think I'd say, I hope you're doing okay, by which I'd mean, I hope it kind of fucking sucks right now. It, in this sense, meaning, I don't know, it. You seem happy on social media, 1 day in every 8, which I assume means you haven't changed at all. The mortician knows its job too well, knows how to gut me like a supermodel's ugly when every 8th day rolls around. I could bury you 6 feet under and never think about you again, by which I mean block you and never think about you again, but I promise to keep things civil and my soul's cemetery is not well versed in manners. I'd pretend I'd never known you so well, if I saw you on the street, that you would wonder how you ever touched me without getting freezer burn. By which I mean I'd have a panic attack afterwards, but better that than letting you see the grisly mess of my corpse's smile, which is the primary alternative. Historically, I don't look good with maggots oozing between my teeth, but then some might say it's hypocritical of me to criticize the way you let social media lie about your scars while I play mortician for my own. And by all this, I mean I'd never sink so low as to ask why you still check my Snapchat every single day, whether it means as little to you as any strangers or whether you check it like a double rum and lemonade on a Thursday afternoon. By which I mean my carefully manufactured smile to get you through the day, or the sting serves a reminder of the last hangover I gave you. I want to be the ground in which flowers grow. I want strangers to feel the sun on their face when I smile. People have told me I was a ray of light when I was in love with you, and it's this concept of heartbreak which just breaks my heart. The truth that years of working on myself creates a less authentic happiness than 3 weeks of just with someone else. I endeavor to love myself on purpose, to tend to my heart like a bonsai, pruning branches to make the trunk stronger, by which I mean loving no one until I can love everyone by way of loving myself. The concept of a forest could not exist until 2 things evolved. One, that plants should hold themselves up by a husk of their own dead cells, by which I mean bark, enabling anything taller than a fern to grow. And 2, that something could turn their death into decay, by which I mean microbes turning wood into soil. See, every time I see your name 1 day in every 8, I do not feel like wildflowers could grow from my chest, but I think maybe I am not to blame for the maggots making feast of my flesh. That I am ugly when I hurt, but the purpose with which I am to love myself is to put away the mortician's makeup, to lay to rest the foundation of civility, which turns my grief into a #glow-up 6 months from now. One day I will wear my old hurts as my spine, but I must prune the branches of my unrequited devotion first. One day a wildflower meadow will burst from my chest, but I must let the maggots make ruin of me for now. You did not mean to hurt me, by which I mean you hurt me, by which I mean I will wear you as bark, by which I mean I have lost count of the excuses I have made for your impassioned apathy. But ignore me. This is just the buzzing of blowflies in my throat.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. It's been too long. Okay, next up we've got Rhoda, if you're ready, followed by Dane. So Rhoda, take it away.
Okay. Thanks, Tatiana. I love the energy of kindness to the world in both poems, I felt. If only there was more of that. Yes, because of the energy of where we want this group to go, where Sierra wants this group to go. These poems are the trigger warning, I guess, is sexuality and mental health, I guess, are in these. I wrote these in March when I began lockdown. I haven't, apart from a walk, I haven't gone out. I mean, a walk every few days. I haven't gone out since March. I went back in my memory 45 years ago, and when I began my my journey in psychological things in psychiatric nursing, and these are a suite of 6 vignettes, but I'm only going to read 5, I think, called Asylum 1975. And anyone here that knows about the mental health system better than I do now will be interested perhaps to see if anything has in fact changed, really. So the first one, we bathed him in potassium permanganate 3 times a day, lifting him out of his narrow high chair, frail, blind body spattered with semen. He'd splash in the warm purple water like a child, grinning and uttering inchoate sounds, meanings that we'd never be able to decipher, and later we'd spoon porridge between his tightly pursed lips, and at the end of the day we'd lie him in a cot with the sides up, and in the morning we'd wait as his chair rattled to its crescendo, and he'd smile before his next bath. Number 2, her husband admitted her. 26 years this had been going on. Thin, wasted hair, eyes darting in all directions, casing the room for both danger and escape. We dragged her, 5 of us, along the corridor, a tiny woman with the determination of an ox. We forced her onto the bed, strapped her down and watched while her body convulsed under treatment 3 times a week until she became the life and soul of the ward, handing round chocolates, laughing, an old hand, recounting the stories of her marriage, not knowing that this time he was filing for divorce. Number 3, a young woman, Gothic-style nails, black lipstick, skirt that touched the ground, chenille waistcoat, ready smile, chatty, sunny demeanour, hair that splayed out across her chest with a toss of her head. And from under the bed she'd retrieve a large bag of remnants from jumble sales. Always the first in the door, she told us with a wink, pulling out a mauve jacket with applique flowers, a red velvet dress with laced cuffs, a tie-dyed t-shirt with colour exploding at its heart. She drew us to her, fingering the fabrics and discussing the prices. And in our excitement at being offered such bargains, we stopped seeing her arms pitted with heroin track marks and the wrists scarred from self-wounding. But it was harder to forget that a few days after one of these bonanzas, after she'd been sent home well, she wound up dead at the curbside, quite alone. Number 4, we shoved her up against the toilet wall of the adolescent unit, having chased her all the way past the day chairs, round the day room tables, past the drug trolley. The charge nurse pushed her arm way above her head until the little square of glass was shaken from her grip and clattered to the floor. Farther down the room, a boy with ginger crew cut, also on suicide watch, awaited his trial date. His charm and cheek wearing thin under the strain, explaining his story to anyone who'd listen. No, he hadn't known that the girl in question was an inmate in the special school where he worked. Met her at the bus stop on the way home from work, he insisted. Never seen her before. She didn't say a lot, smiled a lot, held his hand. How was he supposed to know? She went happily into the woods with him, under a sycamore tree. He'd lifted up her cotton skirt. He knew it was sycamore because of all those wingnut seeds on the grass, where she lay while he fucked her. Number 6. Mary's room was well organised, as a personal secretary's room ought to be. She wasn't working these days, it's true, but she didn't let standards drop. Clothes hung up neatly in the wardrobe. A diary by the bedside. Some days she'd talk to Ethel, whose post-leucotomy headaches served as a warning to Mary. At the group meeting, Mary spoke out bravely. They liked you to say what you felt. She wasn't ready to go home yet, she affirmed. It's 2 years now, Mary, they said gently. Her parents were called in. It was agreed she was ready for discharge. Her old room made ready at home. A work placement to help her adjust back into working life. She packed up her things neatly. We said goodbye and we wished her well, and she sat in the day room waiting for them. Then she said she'd just walk up to the village for some air. Bought a bottle of paracetamol at the chemist. Downed the tablets in the little cafe, the Tudor one up near the green.
Well, that was absolutely harrowing. I think everyone will agree. It's, well, I'd say our system might have improved slightly, but only slightly since then, unfortunately.
Yeah, it made me think about the fact that, we didn't really solve anything for anyone, really.
No, but thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's very powerful. Next up, we have Dane, who is going to be followed by me, unfortunately.
Oh, no, I don't know about that. Yes, thank you. I have 2 pieces, and there are some language things, and so hopefully it's okay. Lantern carrier. For many years, I was outside. I lived unaware, not knowing. I deliberately starved myself of beauty. I was dumb, and I did not ponder the journey, the way. The way is strewn with pebbles, rocks, boulders, the hazards, all for tripping and falling, happening when I look over tall fences, hungry, hoping for ripe peaches that do not belong to me, the tastiest kind. The hazard catches me, alone, no one there to break the fall, to cushion the blow, heart slammed in bedroom door. That is where I wake. Face down, mouthful of Texas caliche, dry roadway gravel, mouthful feeds my hunger, finishes coolly the thirst. I spend time in this new asana, this pandiculation, to inhabit each and every inch of this yoga pose, learning where the tension lies, learning the dharma of this stumble bum with microscope eyes, studies dust and pebbles for the secret signs they hide. Still flat sighs, the eye inside wanting to rush to get up, to the getting up. What's the hurry? The hurt is the same, standing or flat. See, here now I learn the click, snap, siren of every type of dust, bug, and worm. They are lonely. They will listen to my sad story. They are quick to laugh and approve and ask nothing in return. The pregnant flies come looking for nesting, planning to lay road-killed maggots under my skin. I let them to see how this thing ends. The sunshine that was sweet and lovely in the morning gives way to heat like hate in this oven, to bake me in this oven, I awake. She scurries off, saying she is late for her dinner date. Snakes slither across the road, look for lazy mice nibbling on grass seeds. This is how I understand the word of late now. A rattler pauses, flicks its tongue at me, asking me if I would like a kiss. Oh, what an invitation. My mind replies, see, my left hand ring finger, upon it is a wedding band. So respectfully, we must keep our distance. A tear comes to the snake's eye, and I see a new twinkle in it before the snake slides off for an evening meal. Some of the sound of crunching gravel tickles my ear. Swing light approaches, swinging side to side. A strong fingered hand strokes my cheek, so I awake to smiling, white-robed, tall, thin angel carrying a lantern, lifting me out of the gravel Tolman, the tomb I fashioned for myself. As we walked, the lantern carrier recited the Milky Way poems, one for each blinking night in the sky. The maggots grown now fly out of my scars. This lonely outside road I am still on. This outside way, this outside practice, this seeing in, this practice moves through the darkness to the light. They lie to you. The they that is always the they. I have my reporter's pad, recorder. I'm counting the dead, writing down numbers. The memory now seems lined paper thin. Just a moment ago, we were pushing in bed. What was said, I can't remember. Smiles faded, newspaper photo on pile and piles of undone things unfinished. The varnish can open, now pickled gelatin. No sparkling, twinkling, unsmiling eyes. Wait for dead Papa to walk them down the aisle. Since you were dead, 4 times broken, smashed to bits, diamonds, dust collects on wrists and hands. I know I have to take it one more time, and again, and again. This is correspondence from the war. This is how we send wreckage gifts, wrapped in Halloween mask, turkey gravy, 8 candles flicker lit. I read the notes from the coffee-stained pad. I wonder what for. I show you every single scar. What good will it do? From behind this old brick wall, I am sobbing, and even I cannot listen to the screaming in my soul. Weary, sometimes I cannot lift my head up and off this angry, hot pillow with its licking tongue dreams, trying to seduce me one more time into hate sex with myself. The pickup line, heard before, now works every fucking time. On broken knees, I offer the treasure of wounds, blood, and pus. Head down, smiling like this is all that is left. But really, it's rubies, gold, and diamonds, and secret children's dreams of joy. Here, take this plate of entrails. Build us a country cottage fine, riot of flowers in the garden where butterflies dance, just silly clowns. I am sorry. I am not ready yet. I still have to ferment. I take back the offer, put the guts back in the cupboard, the maggots not yet fully grown. When they have flown away, adults, I will look and go see again. The prognosis may still be poor. Poor is still better than ending. Never, never, never. Tomorrow I will fill a new notebook full with tragedy, joy, and wonder. Ponder ever and ever the still wanting heart. Morning sunlight sneaking through the slices in the blinds. Life takes you, if you let it, to streams, pools, understanding the words and the myth, the cartouche on the tomb wall, easily readable, like the National Enquiry story of Rat Boy from Mars. Thank you.
Thank you, Dane. Did you have another one you wanted to share?
No, I just had the two. That's
Yeah,
thank
that's right. Next up is me. Okay. So, content warnings for mine. Let's go for the usual: mental health, eating disorders, self-harm, and poverty. Probably alcohol in there somewhere. Okay, the first one doesn't have a title, so I'll just launch straight into it. You want to be pretty, but when you look in the mirror, you see not beauty, but beast. So you start to cut down Diet Coke, wholemeal bread, but you want to be pretty, and that's not enough. So you start skipping meals, making excuses, telling lies, making sure you consume just a fraction of your necessary nutrition. And maybe it'll work, at least for a while, weight falling off as you indulge in restriction and make claims about Atkins or keto or fancy detoxes. But sooner or later, you'll get drunk or caught out, cajoled into eating or having a tube of 2,500 forced down your throat by nurses who want nothing but to put flesh on your bones. But their kindness is hateful because you want to be pretty, and in despair you might cling to restriction or otherwise give in to despair and self-loathing, binging on mountains built of cakes and sweets and anything else you might desire, only to be reminded by the demon on your shoulder that you want to be pretty, and therefore flee to the sanctuary of the bathroom, where you might purge your grotesque form of your shameful excesses until you're reeling, head full of joy as your body struggles to cope with precious nutrition being snatched from its grasp. And as you stagger, wiping vomit from your lips, you'll think this a miracle because you want to be pretty. And this black magic lets you gorge on everything you've dreamt of when you were snared by restriction, fooling your friends and your family into believing that you've escaped self-destruction, even as you destroy your body, ravaging your liver and throat and teeth because you just can't see another way to be pretty. And this next one is called Language of the Heart, and it's ever so slightly more cheerful. Art is meaningless. They say this because art is the language of the heart, and these dull automatons, our ruling class, have no place in their chests for such frivolous things. Instead, they fill their lives with thoughts of economy and swaddle themselves in suits every bit as grey as their dull and empty souls. For them, there can be no beauty in vivacious watercolors or music which resonates with the very beat of your heart. Their lives are as dull, buried in mundanity, and they see no poetry in any waking moment. A heart of gold to them is infinitely less valuable than a bag of heavy coin. And so they condemn us, chiding us for cherishing the perfect moments they miss as they desperately strive to grind profit from every passing second, telling us that we too should set aside our lingering infatuation with the music of the soul and join them in eternal pursuit of profit. Again and again, they lecture us on the need to abandon art and throw ourselves into fruitless labor, grinding the gears of industry to feed the ravenous beast that is the economy of the land. Yet though they lecture and though they condemn, there is no malevolence in their actions. Their gestures are not born of an envy of our vivacious world or a need to drag us down into the endless drudgery of their wretched existence. Rather, their words are birthed by ignorance, for as they cannot hear the beautiful music to which we dance, they cannot understand why we might cling to it so very desperately, even as they endeavor to drag us away, hoping to drown our passions in a sea of greed and banality. But we shall not loosen our grip or allow our voices to be drowned by the rising waters of their monotone world. Instead, we will climb the peaks of our passion, celebrating the beauty of our art and singing, ever singing, in the language of the heart. Thanks, guys. Next up was Xavier, but I think he's been caught up in work. So, Lucy, if you don't mind.
Right, yeah, I did not anticipate that it was my turn, so I guess I'm reading a poem. Um, right, I was going to read 3 poems, but I have 2 short poems that go together, so I'm going to read 4 poems. Some of you may have heard some of them at previous poetry events. Yeah. Okay. Content warning. Right. Content warning for the first one is just mental health, I guess, and mention of insects as well. Seems a running theme tonight. So this one's called The Fear. I am made of fear. When I open up my mouth to speak, words catching in my throat, like flies, like grains of sand, I choke on them when they make me doubt their meaning. When I step out into the street, when I step out into the sun, too bright, too warm, too revealing, its light reflecting off my surface, blinding, overwhelming, entrapped. When I wake up from every dream, dark, urgent, violent, running all my life, I try to make sense of the world. I try to understand it, but I'm just like a newborn foal, stumbling around, impaired proprioception, tripping over hooves and hooves. Every single day, awake or gone dreaming, I hear the call of the wolf, the song of the danger bird, the echoes of the swelling sea. I cannot turn them down. The fear they broadcast, it runs through my veins and becomes one with my soul. Okay. Right, this next one presumably has the same trigger warnings, apart from insects. And it's a poem I wrote when I became very ill at the beginning of this year, which never went away. Okay, it did go away, partially. Yeah. So this poem is called Hope. You are the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen. A turtle dove among dilapidated buildings. I keep your precious feathers safe under lock and key. But it's hard to tell the truth from these unblinking lies. If I could just close my eyes, then the picture would clarify. I lost my laughter to a scream, and everything that followed buried me under so much rubble I can never dig myself out. The tar black darkness sticking to my skin, blocking my airways. You think, if they shine a light on me, that it will dissipate? Are you the blinking flashlight that tries to show me the way? I listen for faraway echoes, stifled by whispers indistinguishable. My lips tremble, and I never know what to say. I lost my will to live when I realized I didn't have what it took to be alive. If I could take myself apart, rebuild these pieces from scratch, only then could I keep the eternal footman at bay. Okay, so the next two, which are really short poems, are sort of analogous to one another. Months back, and I completely forgot about it. And then I wrote the other one about more or less the same thing, and it turns out they match because, well, they're about the same thing, more or less. So, yes, I'm going to read them. Right. So the first one is called Recluse. You always did like the seclusion, alone with your demons, contemplating, comfortable. You are doing just fine. I am a smouldering fire, in constant need of a spark. I showed you all my coal, expectantly, but you blew the smoke away. And sadly, I've been burning up all of my oxygen, and I am afraid you can't tend to a fire this way. Okay, and the last one is called Rose. When you think of me, in your mind's eye, am I a wilted rose left behind? Not even the caterpillars come here anymore. The glass walls around me only keep the good rays out. The wind still blows through imperceptible cracks. How many petals do I have to lose for you to see that the seasons are changing? Flowers need tending. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing those, Lucy. Next up, Amber, if you're ready. Can we unmute Amber?
She's been asked to unmute. I just wait for her.
Unmute.
There we go.
Okay. Hello. First of all, I've loved everything that has come before. All very different, but very powerful in different ways as well. Especially, Tatiana. My mum works for children with learning disabilities too, so that was, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read 2 poems. They're both pretty short. The first one's mine, the second one isn't. The first one, Facebook threw at me in memories, and it also came along with a 3-year-old criticism from myself saying, too emo, don't really want to share too much.
No such thing.
Only sharing to filtered close friends. And then I was like, no, and you know what? It's not that bad. Fuck it. So this is my sort of like self-healing, I guess. It is admittedly very emo and very it was a dark time, and it is about hopelessness, and so I guess that's the trigger warning there. Yeah. I have been denying denial the chance to die. These are but bruises. I'm not bleeding out of my soul like a sickness retching against a torn throat that screamed as the wind changes. Ah, I should have listened when I was little. The sobering screeches stuck, and I can't remember how to make other sounds. I search the wallpaper, but nothing is found, except the patterns I've drawn for myself, round and round. The merry-go. That's the first one. The second is not my own, and it's not even really strictly a poem. It is poetry, but it's poetry inserted into Patti Smith's cover of Smells Like Teen Spirit. And it's just this random piece of poetry because it's Patti Smith, so she wasn't just going to do an average cover. And she inserted this into it, and I love it. So that's what my second piece is going to be. The empty hand of innocence, transfusing street of the sorrows and children of the wood, hounded, shredding all veils, and winding sheets of the dead world, droning, overturning tables laden with silver sacrificial birds, beating goatskin drums, advancing with outstretched hands, and we keep filling them with mercury nitrate, asbestos, baby bombs blasting blue, scavengers picking through the ashes, children of the mills, children of the junkyards, sleepy, illiterate, fuzzy little rats, hunted, paint sniffing, stoned out of their shaved heads, forgotten, foraging, mystical children, foul-mouthed, glassy-eyed, hallucinating. Yeah, that's me done.
Thank you for sharing those, Amber. It's been far too long. Tim and Xavier haven't joined us, so Mary, if you're good to go.
Unmute, sorry. These things keep coming up to say unmute. Hello everyone, I'm going to read I think about 3 poems. Trigger warnings for them are their mental health themes. There are some references to suicide and self-harm and eating disorders in some of them. I don't think there's anything else, swearing as well. Okay, the first one is called Student Angst. Excuse me, I'm fiddling around my computer because I haven't written them down. So it's called Student Angst. Medicated students who'd be better off on dope, feeling suicidal when they should be full of hope, getting into debt for a career that don't exist, searching for opportunities, invariably dismissed, deliberately self-harming to anesthetize the stress, cramming for exams, dreaming of success, wishing it was over, yet dreading it too much, pretending they're okay when really had enough, of endless bullshit deadlines, of dark, depressing headlines, of self-destructing mind mines, of feeling like they've flatlined. Despair not, lovely students, you'll soon be graduating. Life beyond the uni's walls is far less self-berating. So that's the first one. And the second one I can find it, sorry, is, bear with me a minute, sorry love, called Fat Monday. She always felt fattest on Mondays. Her reflection, and indeed the weighing scales, confirmed that she was. She quickly dressed saggy, baggy clothes, concealing her flab and cellulite, and weekend binging. After giving herself the Monday pep talk, she promised not to eat one thing all day. She worked through lunch on Mondays, avoiding the enemy and patronising workmates, wishing they were as slim as she. Returning to her cosy flat, desperately lonely and sad, she finds comfort in chocolate and feels warm and content until Tuesday. And the third one I'm going to read is called I'm Staying Here. I'm sitting on the settee, stuffing chocolate down my neck, staring at the TV, watching crap, but what the heck? My mind's becoming warped, distorted images appear. I really should go out, but I'm not. I'm staying here. Around the world is busy, making plans and having fun, people fulfilling dreams and lies, whilst I'm content with none. Someone whispered, "It's a shame, she's wasting all these years. One day she'll wake up old and grey. So what? I'm staying here. 'Cause life is full of trickiness, and faith's a dying curse, and joy that can be shared make bad times even worse. Come join me in my fantasies, sail on this ship of fear, block out the stars and sunshine. This is bliss. I'm staying here." That's it.
Thank you. Those certainly resonated.
Thank you.
None of the others have been able to join us.
Tim is trying to, I think he's about to, but it depends if you want to wait for him or not.
Yeah, we can give Tim a couple of minutes. Has anyone got another poem they'd like to share while we wait?
Find others.
I barely found the ones I had.
Yeah, quick
Need to
one.
write more.
I've got a short one I could share, or
Yeah.
okay. This is about grief and bereavement. It's very short. I wrote it after my mum died last year, and it's called Hush. Everything is quieter now you're gone. The dawn chorus hushed, traffic less rushed, raised voices muffled, subdued by grief. Yet noise unbearable from your silence loom. Flowers bud with a boom, the baritone moon shrilled in shock. That's it.
Thank you. And right in time, there's Tim. So Tim, just to evening.
Right. Was that a call?
Yeah, you're up, Tim.
Yeah. Okay. Right. This is a new one. So finished basically this afternoon, and it's called "Spit for the Swallow." Nighttime prowler skirting the perimeter, midnight howler growling in the dark, broken down chapel and a sinister minister, slinging sulphate in the alley where the hound dogs bark, electric shock jukebox skip full of syringes, scattered confusion at the end of the day, Witch-hunted lies, exile and a lynching, everywhere heavy with the smell of decay. We gate-crashed Eden and ended up in hell, working the steps one day at a time. When it's harder to buy, it's harder to sell. The bigger the fortune, the bigger the crime. We partied all night, but got shattered on the rebound. The volume cranked all the way up to heaven. It seems a long time ago now, but just turn round and it's standing at the corner just like it was then. And there's one road to glory with no tickets to sell. And the horsemen are riding back home in the dark. Too early to hear the clang of the bell. Too early to hear the song of the lark. And here's a spit for the swallow, a spit for the crow, a spit for the children you didn't want to know, a spit in the dust to mix up the clay, a spit in your eye at the end of the day. And the house is red and full of radiation. The virus is crawling all around your door. You're gonna need some pills and a spot of medication and maybe a visit to the liquor store. And the nighttime prowler is consulting his solicitor. The midnight rambler is scared of the dark. The broken down chapel is a speculative investment sold for 4 million to a Russian oligarch. These were the things that weren't supposed to happen. These were the beggars that beggared belief. We made an agreement to liquidate the faction, and you swore you wouldn't bring in the police. Empty threats in the corridors of power, tremors so faint you didn't feel them at all. We watched the waves gather from the tall black tower, and the ocean was rising like a great grey shawl. Because times like these are the ruptures in history, the rip in the curtain, the crack in the wall. And through the little cracks, the ocean comes pounding. Who can say where the water will fall? Cheers, guys. That's the poem. Do you want me to?
If you've got another one you'd like to share, Tim?
Do you want me to do another one? I got a piece of what you call it, a piece of prose.
Yeah. Go.
So I saw you'd widened it up in that. So I'll do this piece of prose if you like. I started trying to write my memoirs about 2 years ago and got, of course, completely stuck. But I'll pick up a little bit. It was meant to be about this trip we took to America, right, way back when I was a student up at Cambridge in 1968, and I've spent so long on the run up to the actual trip that it's taken me 2 years to start writing about the actual trip itself. But this was the genesis of the trip. It's sort of a chapter, and it's called A Trip to Nowhere. The decision to go to the USA was made in the aftermath of an acid trip. We were in London in early 1968. I think it was in Kensington Church Street. A group of us, Cambridge students and friends from London, had taken the LSD at about 6 p.m. It was January. It was cold and icy. We were in somebody's ground floor flat. It was laid out in the usual countercultural style, psychedelic posters, Moroccan wall hangings, Hendrix on the stereo, candles, perfect aesthetically for a trip. It was probably the 4th time I'd taken the stuff, and I was getting used to it now. The slow shift of consciousness, the luminous presence of objects, the after images. I don't actually remember much about the trip, apart from 2 things. The first was staring intensely at a lighted candle, the wick of which was slowly morphing into some sort of biblical figure burning at the stake. And the second thing was when a group of us decided to wade through the rippling after images onto the dimly lit street to get some cigarettes. I seem to remember that we did get them, but on the return journey, somebody said something which sounded like, "The police are coming." An infectious fear hit us, and we began to run blindly for the safety of the flat. After managing this collective freak out, low-level paranoia took hold. The serenity of the trip descended into chronic, sour anxiety. The magic had kind of gone. By 5 a.m., most people had crashed out on sofas, beds, or the floor. But John, Chaz's girlfriend Lucy, and I were sitting chain smoking in the light of the early dawn. Our conversation circled around the oppressive nature of modern Western capitalism, how we internalized our own policemen as manifested in that knee-jerk panic after we'd heard the trigger word police on the cigarette expedition. I don't remember the precise details, but the consensus that had developed by about 6 o'clock was that we should go to California. This was A, because of the advanced state of the counterculture there, B, because the levels of political resistance were rising there against both the Vietnam War and against consumer capitalism itself, and C, because the best music, apart from the Velvet Underground, which was in New York, was happening there. But Chaz had visited New York the previous summer, and he'd returned with the first Velvet's LP. Perhaps more importantly, he had the phone numbers of people in New York, Chicago, and in Berkeley. The only dissenting voice about this came from Dave, who was prone on a filthy mattress, a cigarette burning its way down to his fingers. "Look, man," he said, "you still got the same head, no matter where you go." Okay, cheers. That's your lot. Thanks for having me.
Okay, no sign of Xavier or Gary, but they did say they might have trouble with work, so I guess we'll wrap it up there. Just wanted to thank everyone for joining in tonight. It's been so wonderful to see you all again and to hear you all again after so much time in lockdown. I'll try and organize another one of these soon, hopefully without the technical difficulties.
Sorry.
Idiot. And yeah, thanks everyone. Look forward to seeing you again soon, and be kind to yourselves. Take care.
Thank you for organising it, Sierra.
Thank you.
Really good. Well done. Yeah, great.
Thanks for organising it.